on who we.
You never know till you
Yeah.
Schoolhouse.
Yeah.
People love going there.
Yeah, it was just totally, because last time we went there, it was like in the fall.
Yeah.
And there was hardly anyone there. It was so nice. We had
Oh,
to
yeah,
to
yeah.
ourselves, and it was during.
Did you have a nice vacation?
And, you know, it's
Yeah.
weekend, nice weather, there were so many.
I saw a
families
few new
there.
things.
Yeah.
Everything Julie saw was new.
Yeah.
And you
Never
gotta have
been there
like
before,
shoes.
or any of those
You
places.
can't go out in the
It's
water.
tough,
You know.
tough either.
Quite a few places in
You can't get in the water.
Wyoming, Yellowstone, Medicine Wheel. We went on
The
that
finance.
alternate 14.
No,
Instead of deciding
No.
to stop through to see Poppy's Pillar and the Custer Battlefield on the way east to Spearfish, I said, you know what? Those are nice things to see, but they're not must-see items.
that was a lot.
The Medicine Wheel Highway is a
I'm ready
must-see.
to go.
It's
In a short
closed
amount
like in
of time.
September until May.
Try to move through. Yeah. We're not
It's worth it. And what did she like?
Well, it's a long thing, and I'm not involved.
By taking that alternate 14 Medicine Wheel Highway, we missed the 100 vehicle pileup with 6 fatalities at Harding. That would have put us somewhere around that area at that time. So
In the crash or?
let's hear it from Mother Nature.
We'll call the common council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence and meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Item 3 on the agenda, approve July 11, 2022 Common Council minutes. Roll calls up in front. Let the record show all members are present. Item 3, approval of the July 11, 2022 Common Council minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 4, public comment communication. If anyone would like to speak to the council tonight, please come forward to the podium. State your name and address, and there is a 3-minute time limit per person. So is there anyone that wishes to speak before the council tonight? Come on up, John.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak here. My name is John Schultz. My wife and I own the 220 Ellis Street building. Pretty Please Boutique is in there, and upstairs is our apartment. We've been having some concerns about a person who bought a building behind us, and he's threatening to block off the driveway through. This actually isn't going to allow us access to our property. It will in summer because we can go down the steep hill, but in winter we can't. And even more of a more concerning thing is the fact that whether or not fire and rescue can get down there. So if it's all blocked off, we're kind of landlocked there. And my wife and I have an apartment up there. We own the building, and then there's 2 rentals in the building that's west of us. That's Dr. Renee Peters' building. So we're, I know I have to thank Jeff because he did kind of intercede here for us. But I wanted to get on the record that if the purchaser of this building, which was the Russ Rank building directly behind us, starts creating, in my estimation, problems, we need to have it on record, and we're going to at that time have to do something about it. So, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hi, I'm Kathy Churski, and this has to do with the same issue. Derek has the veterinarian to my right, to the east of my building, And she had a letter to be read. Fencing the area would mean no residents or business owners could access their buildings from the south lot next to Nicolay Bank. They only have two options to enter. There's through a narrow alley filled with junk or down the steep hill off of 42. They're not available in winter. We wouldn't be able to get to the establishments at all. Not really sure where they should be parking. If it should be on Ellis Street, where it should be for customers and not for the owners of buildings. Fire trucks, ambulance, and police would be locked out. Garbage trucks would be also trash containers from various businesses are placed in a lot adjacent to the building in question. That's the only way they have access to the garbage cans is through that opening. And concern is ability of snowplows to plow areas south of buildings on Ellis Street. Delivery trucks also use the space, and that would end. Fifth concern is ability of clients to access Kewaunee Veterinarian through the back entrance. Many clients with multiple or large pets enter the clinic from the south entrance. The open space adjacent to this property has always been open. Vehicles and people have always been able to move freely through the space. Eminent domain would come into play. Doesn't one need to get permission from neighbors when creating a structure that impacts them directly? That came from Lark. For me, pretty much what John said, I also have the same feelings. I know in the past, when the beauty shop was on the corner where the chiropractor is, I parked in the back by the bank parking lot and would walk up that hill in winter. I slipped, wrecked my ankle, ambulance had to come get me. There'd have been no ambulance been able to get in had they had this been blocked off by this man with no access through. If there's a fire, all of our buildings are connected by walls. We're all connected to one building. If there's a fire, it's gonna have to be fought from the front and the back, and there'll be no access for fire trucks to get through either. Or our whole block could go. I have a basement garage for storage and the entrance is from the back. I do not use it as a car garage, but I do have storage down there. And my product that I unload, which is quite a bit at times, I have to unload in the back because that's where my storage area is. At the age I'm at, to carry cases of these products through my entire salon to the back storage is quite a job at this point already. Businesses in the community have enough to do to survive. Parking on Ellis Street is so limited. It should be for customers, not for the owners of businesses. And because of that, well, I was mad when I wrote this. Because of the thoughtless and mean actions of one person against 5 businesses will trickle down to affect all of Ellis Street businesses. Plus, this person had no problem using the bank property to access his property. So he can drive across somebody else's, but we shouldn't be able to just access our spot. In summer, it really isn't a problem coming down that hill. I did mention it to one person on the board here to drive their vehicle down that hill and just see in summer because the bottom of my car hits the top of the hill. So, but if I go slow, I shouldn't take anything out down there. That's mainly what it is that it's, too bad we have to go through something like this with our community being as friendly and conscious of other people that somebody from the outside area comes in and creates a problem. And that process has been used, that throughway has been used for as long as I can ever remember. And I've been down there working like close to 50 years. So that's all. Yeah.
Thank you.
You Kathy.
Kurt Johnson, 803 Milwaukee Street. I just got a couple of items to bring to the attention of the council. And one relates to the standing committees. I know you moved from committee of the whole to standing committees. I don't know how aware the public is of that or not, but it's certainly perfectly acceptable and a good move. On the city website, though, you can't find anything about what the 4 standing committees are, or who the members are, or who the chairman is, or when the meeting dates are. And so I think that should maybe be a priority as far as getting that up and running. And then just like the cow, where you had an agenda packet, to the extent you can, at least if the council members are getting a packet for those meetings, that the public should see that, too. I mean, the more public exposure to have these things, that more input, other thoughts or perspectives that you might not be thinking about could come into play.
And then I know you had a finance committee meeting right before this. If you have to do that, if you have to schedule that, unless there's something really urgent on that agenda, I don't think it should be put on the council agenda right after it, because, you know, basically I looked at the finance committee agenda, and there's some of the items that are on there were on the agenda. The finance committee are on the committee agenda today, or the council agenda. And that's, you need a little time for consideration, thought, other people looking at it instead of rushing it right on there. So unless there's like just some urgent need to do that, I don't think you should do that. And, you know, I think this mayor and the council wants to be as transparent and open as they can and get as much input as they can. And so waiting till the next council meeting, unless there's some urgent need, I don't think there's a problem with that. The second thing I wanted to mention is the list of boards and commissions on the website. And I know that you've been short-staffed and all that, but some of these are pretty funny, actually. The lists, and I'll give you an example, they need to be updated. So for example, the board of review lists this: Mayor Jason Jelinek, City Clerk Terry DeCur, Chairman Joe Mills. Joe, you're still chairman there. Vice Chairman Jeff Dvorak, and Council Member Dan Stengel. So I think that committee is completely, I don't think any of those members are on that committee anymore. So I think those, you know, for the public's sake, I think those have to be or should be updated at some point. I know, like I say, we've been short-staffed for a while, but that might move up the priority list. And then the last thing, I noted this closed session item about purchasing property. And I'm just curious, I guess, what standing committee did that go through before it went on the council agenda? I was just curious, was that, there's one that has to do with public property, isn't there? Is that? So, okay.
So for the sake of your question, I'll answer, but typically public comment just speaks to the council and we don't respond or take action. Okay, just so the public's aware of that, that's protocol. But I had discussed it with the chair and it was discussed that at this time it was coming to the full council. So that's why we did that way.
With the chair of
Public property?
okay, but it wasn't actually discussed in public property then. Okay,
No,
well,
we're working on getting our standing committees entire job description, if you will, together. So
okay.
that's all I'll
Well,
say on that right
I
now.
guess what I'd say, and like I say, I think the standing committee structure is great. And it allows the members to focus on certain issues and become experts sort of in those areas. But, you know, again, unless it's really urgent and pressing and needed immediately, if not sooner, I think, you know, the standing committee, you know, should review it. And then there should be some time for the public and the council to take a look at it, because there might be some issues or things that people aren't thinking about that you know might be helpful. That's it. Thanks.
Anyone else wish to speak under public comment this evening? Anyone else wish to speak under public comment? Public comment is closed. Thank you. Item 5, boards, commissions, committee and staff reports. Plan Commission 7/7/22, Historic Preservation Commission, Preservation 6/30/22, and staff reports. Want to have a chance to review those?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can we have some discussion on that, please?
Sure.
I just wanted to say, and I know that's not. Where am I here? Okay. I was asked or told by the community center meeting by the members of that committee and the senior board, if I would just let everybody know that they thanked us and thanked the mayor for keeping things moving forward. They feel we're doing a great job, and they also have noticed how much business having the boat launch and the ramps available and open that it's bringing to the community, and they wanted to make sure that we are aware that they are paying attention and they notice this. And they also would like everybody to know that cards are played on Monday, bingo's on Wednesday, meals are served daily at the community congregational church, and home delivered meals are also available. So And I keep meaning to bring that up and I always forget. So I told him I would do it under this point. Everybody's still here. And they also said they are waiting patiently for the community senior center. And they are being patient, but they're not going to wait forever. So
Fair enough.
just so it's on the record.
Thank you
I'm
for
done.
that. Does anyone else have any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Item 6, mayor's report. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce and welcome Heath Eddy as our new city administrator. I would also like to remind everyone that tomorrow is a primary election and to be sure to get out and vote. And I wish all of our staff and volunteers the best tomorrow as they go through the vote. Hopefully there's a big turnout. And just in regarding the property downtown, I have been working with John and Kathy who reached out to me, and I'm trying to make sure that we can do what's best. And I think what's best is public safety first. And that's the one thing that the city has jurisdiction over. And I want to make sure that that property is accessible for emergency services at all times at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So hopefully that will resolve that. That's all I have on our mayor's report right now. So we'll move on to item 7, unfinished business. Item A, consider an act on reaffirming committee appointments from the July 11th Common Council meeting. So we had approved them at that meeting, but there was just a request to reaffirm those committee appointments that everyone understood that had been voted on. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve those
Mr. Mayor,
committee.
question,
Okay,
were we gonna do swap 7 Bravo first and have 7 Alpha come later?
no, actually, I think we're gonna have a motion and a discussion on 7A that should accomplish that. What you're discussing regarding one of the appointments on there.
Correct.
Yeah, so
And one more thing.
Yep.
On the committee appointments that were actually voted on the 11th, for the new standing committees, as laid out and approved, the term is undefined for those committees.
for council,
Yeah, it doesn't say if it's 2
Yeah,
years,
so
3 years,
typically-
1 year. It doesn't say what
it's
the term
annually,
is.
it's annually, it's every spring on the reorganization meeting is always the way it's been, John. We've never had a term.
It's always been done every year at the reorganization.
You're talking historically, back when we used to have them.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay, so I
So other
didn't
than
get
3
that
or 4
memo,
years
like
in
that's what
history
it
and time,
was.
yeah, that's the way it is, so.
So
Theoretically, we could say
it's an
April,
annual appointment.
April of 2023. If we wanted to.
Sure.
Okay,
All right, so I would entertain a motion to approve the appointment.
Is there discussion?
Well, we're gonna have a motion.
We're getting to that.
So John made a motion,
I'll second.
Jim. Now discussion. Does anyone have any discussion? Wendy, go ahead.
I would like to take City Attorney Randy Nesbitt out of the appointments and just take him out, and he would be an at-will employee until we settle on the new attorney. He's not an employee. He's contracted.
Contractor.
Contracted employee, yes.
So
But I-
he's currently has an at-will contract as a contractor. And so we could keep him on in that capacity until he would be possibly replaced without having him as an appointment. But Keith, is that not, does that position have to be appointed?
Yes, state statute.
It does by state statute have to be appointed. So my suggestion was to leave it as is, and anytime that changes, that appointment would change, whether someone quits, terminated, whatever, because you're shaking your head. It's a state statute to have an appointed attorney.
If we vote on this, it's a two-year appointment. That's what our municipal code says. It's a 2-year appointment. If we vote on this, it's a 2-year appointment. That's my
But
understanding.
that's no different than like for me, I'm a public official. I have a,
Right.
I'm
I think it is.
appointed and I can be appointed, indefinitely, but I can quit
But
anytime.
there's, it very specifically says it's a 2-year appointment for the city attorney.
You can change your attorney at any time, though. I mean,
No, we
that's,
cannot. I don't think so.
His contract says we can.
Well, okay, I would still like to remove him. I will vote no on this.
Well, we have to vote on it. So we
Okay,
have to
I know,
come to
but so I'm just requesting
agreeable
that city,
position.
yes, but I'm requesting that the city attorney be taken out of this. If we're gonna vote on, en masse, I'm requesting that he be taken out.
How about if we just take out Randy Nesbitt,
That's all I'm
but
asking.
leave city attorney in?
It's an appointed position. So if I'm not mistaken, if it's state statute dictates you have to have someone in that position. The thing that we got, I think the hurdle that we need to get through would be the term limit, if there is a, if.
And so if we acted on 7 Bravo before we acted on 7 Alpha.
We
it
can't appoint
alleviates
7
the
Bravo
issue.
because we don't have a contract with them yet.
No, but we can make a decision on whom we'd like to offer a contract to.
But I can't appoint someone that I don't have an agreement
Well,
with.
then you don't have to appoint him today, do you? He's still there. By the way, we still have Mike May.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there.
Right. So are we able to do it without identifying a term on the position?
Mr. Mayor, actually, when Mike May was appointed, he was not appointed city attorney, he was appointed council attorney.
That's correct.
So Mike May is not actually is not an appointed city attorney. He was an appointed council attorney.
He wasn't even appointed, he was just hired.
I'm sorry.
Well, hired, whatever,
He was
but
contracted.
he is
There's a
not,
difference.
he is not the city attorney. He was the council attorney.
Correct.
But, okay, so can we pull that out? And then at the next meeting, do the appointment
So
for the
exactly what
city
Janine is
attorney?
saying, we pull that line item out and he's not on a new term, he's on an indefinite term like he's been for the last 2 years. And we're authorizing the full appointments as presented with the exception of the city attorney.
Correct.
Yeah, we can do that. I guess the only question is what happens if we run into a problem? Does he?
He's still a contracted employee.
No, he's not a contracted employee. Well,
Contractor.
he's a contractor, but he remains, my understanding is he remains the appointed city attorney until we appoint somebody else.
And
And
just
so,
for
but just
clarification,
not to, we don't need to up his appointment.
right, the annual appointments have not been ratified by the council for the last 2 years. So all those positions have just continued to carry forward.
If you're just continuing to carry forward, I don't see any reason you could pull them off there and it wouldn't make any difference because you're continuing the past practice for the last couple of years. So I think you're okay because he's just operating on basically a contractual basis to finish out whatever we would need bare minimum until somebody else is appointed.
Could you not change the verbiage to say active current or some kind of?
Well, you're
attorney
dealing with
where you're
ordinances and
not
statutes,
putting-
it's not just a.
I mean, you don't have to have the attorney's name in that position, do you?
But
Yeah,
you
it's an
do.
appointed named
It
position.
has to have a name.
can't you just make the motion and then make it so that it's, that position is Randy Nesbitt until such a time that, a new attorney is.
So if
Hired?
the municipal code specifies 2-year term,
It does.
first thing I would do is I would amend your municipal code. to remove
Okay,
that
we can do
term.
that, but not today.
That can't be done right now. You have to post it and then you have to. Yeah, yeah, I understand that, but that's one thing we'll have to fix, but in the meantime, it sounds like you could probably make do with what you've been doing.
Pull-
In that
pull-
position.
In that position, just leave him like a one-off until
So
next month when you.
When a new individual would come forward, then, for example, we would have that on our next agenda and we could make that new appointment by me, ratified by the council at that time.
So
I'm
so
going to take the name off.
take the name, take city attorney and Randy Nesbitt out of the,
Jim?
Who made the motion?
John.
John, do you wish to change the motion?
to remove.
You wish to amend your motion to remove the city attorney from what we're voting on for the appointments.
Well, I guess I'm not exactly sure what motion I'm making now.
I have a question. Can this be put off to the next meeting?
Well, in all honesty, it was voted on at the last meeting and we're just getting reaffirmation, which actually this will be an amendment to that.
I mean, I would like to formally vote on the other appointments, just not that one. I think it's
So that,
important. I
John, can
think
you clarify, we're moving forward with all the appointments as presented with the exception of the city attorney.
That
If
would
you
be-
wish to amend your motion.
Yes. With the exception of the city attorney.
And I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
We're protected until the other one is,
correct. He remains, the way I understand our municipal code, he remain, and I've talked with Mike May about this too. He remains the city attorney until the mayor appoints a new attorney. His term ran out in April of 2022. He came on, or he was reaffirmed in.
I get what you're saying, but all of a sudden his name's not on this and all of a sudden or is it Kewaunee?
He's actually, it's not off of it either.
Okay.
He's still on. We just haven't reaffirmed his appointment going forward. So he's been on the same capacity he's been at since 2020.
My concern is if we vote with his name on here, he is appointed for 2 years. And there, it's very difficult. It's like a whole process to get.
I'm just concerned about that gap between,
But we-
So
we've
it's
been-
actually
we've been
shouldn't be a
at that-
gap.
we've
It's a
been-
2020 till indefinite.
we're still protected.
Plus it's got a contract that was signed in December of 21. Rich, you have a question?
So I would like to be able to vote on the personnel who are listed with their terms to expire for their appointments in 2025. Because I don't believe those were voted on the June 11th meeting. The other ones would not have been subject to vote anyway. Only the ones that I see have their term expiring in April of 2025, I believe they were the new appointments.
All
and I
the
don't
names
believe they
before
were
you were
voted
on
on.
there. The terms expiring were incorrect on that. So yes,
So on this packet, they're wrong.
No.
No, on the last one.
the last one was wrong. So we're
so-
correcting the terms.
And it's my understanding that in the June 11th meeting, what was voted on was the standing committees, not these.
They were all part of the package.
They were all in 8F. Yeah, they were all in that same.
We were told that they were all part of the motion and the appointments. That's. the
Was that
way-
what you saw on the video?
Well, that it was, on the video, we voted on the very specific ordinance. That's what we voted on. We voted on the ordinance, the jurisdiction that.
That's why, for clarity, we're getting reaffirmation of the
Yes,
vote.
and I think
So-
that's proper because I don't believe we voted on the,
So
this stuff.
that's why we have this on here tonight,
Mhm.
to reaffirm that vote.
And so I'm just asking for clarification. What we're really voting on is the people who have a term
Yes.
listed as expiring in April of 2025. Because they
Okay,
would be
yeah.
the new appointees.
I mean, we could specify, I mean, I've got them all highlighted, if you.
Well, but I think
Specify.
John has a motion.
John has a motion, we have a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's fine, yeah. I think. it covers.
I'm okay with the motion.
Call a question.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Can you just
Aye.
be
Aye.
very specific about what we're voting on?
We're voting on all the appointments with the exception of Randy Nesbitt listed on the appointments. That's what we're voting on. That was what my amended motion.
Yes.
All committees, subcommittee, commissions,
Just want to be clear.
thank you for that. Because we're not
Randy
reaffirming.
Nesbitt- Randy Nesbitt is still in that capacity.
Any
until the
opposed?
Mayor appoints.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. 7B, consider an act on request for proposals, city attorney services, Davis, Kultau, Wansek, Jackals, Dowell, and Babcock SC.
Well, there's two different ones. Yeah, Davis and Kelso was one firm and then.
Oh, sorry.
Take over.
Well, they usually got 10 lambs anyway, so I thought. So there's 2 proposals that we had received. Keith, you and I had a conversation about the 2 that were submitted here. And I think you had, you were gonna weigh in a little bit. You had some experience with one of them. And one of them was, let's just say, not complete properly.
Well, if you notice, there's one of the 2 proposals, they clearly put enough effort into it because it's rather extensive. The other one less so. I guess that's fair. I have had some experience with attorneys from Davis Keelthaw. One of my cousins used to work for them once upon a time, but he hasn't for a while, so there's no conflict there. But I have had working experience with some of the attorneys and staff at Davis Keelthaw. They're pretty good, pretty conscientious. They pretty thorough too. So although that was the office in Milwaukee, I assume it's not any different.
It's in Green Bay.
Yeah, I know, but the one I was working with
Okay.
was in Milwaukee. I'm assuming that there's not much difference from one office to the next, but I have had experience with working with them. I don't think there's any problem with going with them as your staff attorney, your city attorney. Just recognize that you'll be getting primarily Anthony Stefik as the primary, but then you're also going to get a group of other people if they need to step in for whatever reason. So it's like one person plus a team. So it's probably going to be a little different than your normal experience. So you may have a city attorney who shows up and it's somebody else representing Anthony Stefik and Davis Keelthaw.
Michelle.
I make a motion to use Davis Keelthaw as our city attorney services.
Is there a second?
I would second.
Rich? Any further discussion?
I will say that what I noticed with Davis Keelthaw is they have more municipality experience than the other ones, so that's what I witnessed.
And they're giving us a deal for the first year, right? They are. I love a deal.
Any further discussion? Any call roll on that?
Kathy Brown,
Yes.
John Blaha,
No.
James Brewster.
Aye.
Wendy Shelton.
Aye.
Janita Zimmerman,
Aye.
Robin Nelson,
Aye.
Richard Taylor,
Aye.
Eric Wizdicky.
Motion carried. Item 8, new business. A, consider an act on recommendation to exceed the purchasing policy. Ambulance department to purchase a new monitor for $12,000. Joe, you want to explain that 12 grand?
Well, it's not really 12 grand. I wish it was.
Fake news.
So for those of you who didn't get one in finance committee, just grab one. This is the estimate for the proposal for purchasing new monitors for the ambulance service. So really what I'm asking for is just for permission to go over my $10,000 spending limit. As a department head, I cannot go over $10,000 spending limit without approval of the council. So basically we have the money there. If we add it all up, there's roughly just over 300,000 sitting in the segregated ambulance fire replacement fund account. Once we get everything straightened out from last year and this year, there was some monies that were sent in from the state that really weren't, nobody knew what it was for, so it wasn't allocated into the account. That's getting corrected. So roughly there will be just over 300,000 in that account for ambulance fire replacement funds. Last year we received an initial balance of $5,800 in funding assistance program money. And then we received an additional 2 checks. One was for $30,000 The second one was for $7,785 and some change. Those two, the last two checks, the 30,000 and the 7,000. The state sent the money direct deposited into our account, but nobody knew where it was supposed to be, what it was for or anything. So we figured that out actually in April of this year. So we have to go back and basically move that money into that reserve account. Because it wasn't done yet. And then for this year, we already received a check for $6,000 from the FAP, the Funding Assistance Program. In addition to that, we received a $12,000 check for the Funding Assistance Program grant funds. We are eligible for another $12,000 from the Funding Assistance Program grant, but we have to prove to the state that we spent the first $12,000. Okay, once we spend the first $12,000, they'll give us another check for 12. So roughly between last year and this year, we have $73,585 of money to spend. That was grant money from the state. So we're looking at purchasing new monitors to replace the ones that are getting aged. The last set of monitors were purchased by the ambulance auxiliary at about $28,000 a piece. They are reaching the end of their useful life. Roughly 5 to 6 years is the usable life. The company that serviced them, they won't service them anymore because they're getting past the 5-year limit. And we are starting to have problems with them. So the proposal, what you have in front of you is the estimate for purchasing one. And it comes out to be $31,888.75. That's also with the service contract included. And a $6,500 trade-in for our current units. So basically we're looking at purchasing 2 of them right now because basically we have the money there. And we need to start purchasing these. Third one we'll look at down the road and see when we want to purchase that one as well. So, but we know we have the money there for the first 2 already. So
just to be clear, for those that weren't at the finance meeting, he has the money is in the general fund. It's designated for the ambulance. The reason he's here for this request is because he has a spending limit in the department. So he just has to get authority to spend the money that's the ambulance's money.
And the finance committee already
Approved it.
approved it to send it up to city council to, for them to exceed his $10,000 purchasing forward to about the $12,000 to purchase that one monitor.
well, it's not 12,000, it's 31,000 a piece.
Right.
Yeah, the 12,000 is just, I have to be able to spend that first 12,000 to get the second 12. So, yeah.
I'm wondering why they allow $6,500 for a unit that's outlived its life expectancy. I mean, why would they give us anything really?
It's basically,
Components.
it's components and on the secondary market, John, they can get it.
Oh, can they?
Yeah.
Okay.
They won't recertify it for services here, but they may ship it elsewhere. I don't know. I'll take the $6,500 trade.
I just said.
So
Yeah.
the total amount of monies that you're expecting to spend is,
$63,770 and some odd change.
So just to be clear, the motion from finance came up to spend up to $64,000 for 2 monitors.
okay,
Roughly. Yeah.
I would make a motion that we authorize expenditure of $64,000 to the Kewaunee ambulance to purchase new monitors.
To come out of the ambulance fund.
Yes.
Mhm.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Robin? Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Kathy Brown,
Yes.
John Blaha,
Yes.
James Brewster.
Aye.
Wendy Shelton.
Aye.
Jania Zimmerman.
Aye.
Robin Nelson.
Aye.
Richard Taylor.
Aye.
Eric Wozniacki.
Thank
Joe,
you.
motion carried.
Figured rather spend grant money than taxpayers' money here in the city, so.
Thank you for that. How long does it take to get the 12,000 that you get?
Just say.
We got one check ready. Who knows when we get the second? one, so.
8B, consider an act on recommendation for addendum number 13 from Cedar Corporation in the amount of $8,500 Fisherman's Point. Jim, you want to give us a brief rundown that you gave the finance committee, please?
Okay, this addendum is for some additional work at Fisherman's Point. It's some site investigation sampling that is necessary because of the fact that there's been some methane discovered in the northeast corner of the site. So what we want to do is test that a little bit closer and understand that sampling or the nature of that methane in that corner. It's important because it impacts the site design. And what we're looking to do is try to understand that the best we can as we go forward with designing the site. The grant that we have for the project would cover this cost. If the work is within the scope of services, it addresses environmental contamination and remediation. The proposal that you have in front of you for the addendum, I should say, includes the environmental services that our company would do, the lab testing, and some DNR fees that are we're proposing to help expedite approval. As I mentioned, the site or the work output would really contribute to the site and civil design that we are in the process of finishing. And I also have with me Dan O'Connell, who's the head of our environmental group, who can provide specifics to the steps that would be involved with the effort, if you wish. Want to give a rundown? Sure.
I have a question in regards to the methane. Where do we think that's coming from? Oh, that's his. Okay.
Yeah, so that site historically is documented as having fill material placed on site. So there's probably buried, a lot of times that they would bury wood products. There's also the plant matter that used to be across the site over years and years of history. They would have been buried beneath the surface. And then those organics, the wood, the plants, they all break down, produce a gas, methane. The methane is an explosive gas. So that's kind of the issue here that the DNR is looking at. This is why we want to do a little more investigation, because this is going to have impacts with the design of the site, how our engineers are designing the restoration for that site. And then, there might be certain limitations that the DNR is going to look at if the methane is bad. So the purpose for this addendum is to do more investigation, to get the data, to be able to share with the DNR and come up with a design plan that can be protective.
Question for Joanne. Can you speak to whether or not we actually do have the $8,500 in our CDBG grant funding to cover this?
I cannot speak to that at this point. I'm still working with Cedar Corp to decipher all of the different addendums and stuff at this time.
I can address that, Rich. Excuse me, I did talk to Lynn McIntyre, who is with Cedar Corp. She was hired by the city to do the administration and for the block grant project. This would be covered. She said that as long as it's consistent with the scope of work, which it is, and it's not outside going in a different direction, which it's not.
And the monies are available.
Yeah.
If we won't exceed some predetermined limit of the grant.
You're far from that.
So Jim, just to be clear, I think to help the council understand, and I want the finance committee to be a part of that going forward, we're gonna have, if there are certain things within the CDBG grant, let's say hazardous mitigation is one checkbox for up to $100,000, just for example, and you can't exceed it, the grant won't cover it. I don't know if those parameters are in there in certain line items in the grant or not, but even the overall cost or the overall amount of the CDBG, if we can have an understanding going forward, a rolling dollar amount, so then each month at finance will understand where we're at and at what level. And yeah, it's covered by the grant. Well, okay, that gets it covered and now we got no money left and we got a lot to mitigate. So
And
that'll help us understand.
I'm working on that as we speak.
Right.
Have,
Because we reached out to Brandon also on some other things on Friday. So,
What we started on was the week before last, and I'm hoping to have it done this week, is a definition of all the activities that are left.
Yep.
Some of those activities were the responsibility originally of the city. And those are no longer things that the city will be doing. So we've identified all those. Those will be covered under the different buckets, so to speak, that the grant is funding.
and those all had projected cost prior to going into that, prior to starting this process. So that'll help us understand how much money we should have spent and have future to spend. So does that help? Okay.
Yes, it does.
Well, and I think you made it very clear before, this has to be done. This is not
Oh, yeah.
something,
Right,
this
so
is
it's
not a
gonna
choice.
influence the design of that restoration work, which, our engineers are hoping to get started on soon.
Yeah.
And
Which is
this
why it's
this
authorized under the grant. So
Right.
Rich, you had some.
I would like to make a motion then that this council approve addendum number 13 in the amount of $8,500 for the site characterization of Fisherman's Point.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Please call roll. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Lenny.
And you said that this also has to do with getting the extension for the CDBG, that this, making sure that everything's in order, so
A lot of
maybe
the-
Jim said that, I'm not sure.
A lot of the work that we're doing with different agencies, whether it's FEMA, WDNR, the state, they're all kind of affecting the timeline. They have their reviews that they need to do. And kind of dictate how fast they move, so.
Okay, please call roll.
Kathy Brown,
Yes.
John Blah,
Yes.
James Brewster, Wendy Shelton, Janita Zimmerman, Robin Nelson, Richard Taylor,
Right.
Eric Wiznicki.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item 8C, consider and act on recommendation for addendum number 14 from Cedar Corporation in the amount of $2,000 for a phase 1 environmental site assessment for city-owned property parcel number 31241GL171-13-1. So.
Check.
So basically, what this is this is outside the scope of the CDBG grant. This is for a city-owned parcel in the northeast corner of the harbor area. We're entertaining an offer to purchase on that. And to do this phase 1 site assessment would be a part of scope of that property. Jim, did you have something else to add to that?
I was gonna ask Dan if you could maybe explain the benefits of having a site one done.
Just to understand phase 1 versus phase 2, a little bit finance meeting.
They do a lot of phase ones when there's property transfer with the banks involved and things like that. It's a way for people to understand what they're buying and what they're selling. So, add to that.
Yeah, so as Jim kind of already said, phase 1 is kind of the initial research that you do on a property. It gives you the information, the historic information on that site to rule out the possibility of contamination or suspect that there might be contamination. You don't collect samples in a phase 1, that would be a phase 2. So the difference between the two is whether or not you're collecting samples. Yes.
2 questions. 1, which side of the road are you talking about?
The
Because
water
when you
side,
look
the
on
west.
the GIS,
Yeah,
the
we'll discuss
parcel
that. We'll discuss that later.
is split
Right, that's not.
per the GIS number as it's defined here. The other thing is, who's requiring this? I mean, is the city wanting this or is the potential buyer wanting this? Who is this benefiting? Is it benefiting the city or is it benefiting the buyer?
Both.
Absent a buyer making a request to purchase, would the city be doing this and spending this money now?
Probably not.
Fair enough.
Does anyone else have any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the $2,000 for the phase 1 environmental site assessment.
No move.
Is there a second? Jim, any further discussion?
Aye.
Michelle?
I wish we could talk more about this. I feel like, again, like in the finance committee, I just feel like there's things that we can't really discuss now. Is there? I wish we could have a conversation in the closed session about this.
Keith, do you have anything to offer?
Well, you are gonna reconvene out of open session. You could theoretically wait on this particular item until after you do the closed session, so you can talk about the rest of it. And then you come out of closed session and decide what to do with this one. That way it's all wrapped up in a relative bow. I guess.
I would feel better about
I like that.
Would you rescind your motion then?
Well, what you could do is you could offer a secondary motion to simply delay until after, and then your original motion would. You're just doing another motion to.
Well, I'm wondering if we can even do that. Number one, this says, consider an act for $2,000. Now we're gonna move that from open session to closed session.
No, delay it.
Delay it.
So when we get back into open session.
We're just delaying it to the end.
Okay.
You can move it to the back end. Joanne, do you see any issue with doing?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Just that we have a motion on the floor, so you have to make a decision as to what you're gonna do.
They don't have to appear in the same order. It says it right on here, John.
Then I'll make a motion to move this.
Wait, first you have to rescind your.
Okay, I'll rescind my original motion.
Okay.
I'll rescind my second.
I make a motion to move this to open session after closed session.
I'll second.
Say Robin.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor of moving item 7C, I'm sorry, 8C down to item 11? Right?
No.
Or after open session?
You don't have to make a motion.
Session.
I don't.
No, you have the authority to move it on the mayor, so you can just say we're going to, you just make.
So we've got the motion 7C rescinded. And at this point, we're gonna hold that vote until later on the agenda.
You, yes, you just say you're.
And that's just what I'm doing.
8C is going to be, you're.
Going to reconvene from closed session.
8C is being moved down the agenda. Oh, Jim, you sat down already. I wasn't down. I'm just kidding. All right, so then we will move on to 8D. Consider an act on quitclaim deed for parcel number 241-00340-0260 owned by the city of Kewaunee to KCDT LLC. So what was explained to me, and there should be a recommendation, was that included in our packet? Yes. Yeah, from Randy. Oftentimes surveys get corrected through the years and there ends up being inaccuracies from old surveys versus new technology. And this is showing up as a questionable piece of property that the city may own, which we do not own. It's not in the right of way. And so what we would do is a quitclaim deed, meaning we don't claim any of that property as ours and the parties can have at it, the adjacent parties. So the recommendation is to authorize a quitclaim deed by the city attorney. So
I make a motion to move forward with the quitclaim deed.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Janita, any further discussion? Do we need a roll on
I would.
that? Call a roll, please.
Kathy Brown,
Yes.
John Block.
Yes.
James Brewster. Wendy Shelton. Janita Zimmerman.
Aye.
Robin Nelson.
Aye.
Richard Taylor.
Aye.
Eric Wozniacki.
Motion carried. 7E, consider an act on a recommendation to purchase new voting booths for the city of Kewaunee. 8, I don't like you saying 7. Jeez. Stuck on lucky 7. 8. So Joanne, would you like to explain why you don't want to lift those heavy ones anymore?
It's just,
Antiquated.
antiquated, you know, from what I understand, they're metal, they're heavy. What I'm recommending for purchasing, is they're plastic. The legs come off and then you can, you know, they fold up and they are stored inside the case. They're like little, you know, suitcases. They stack up real nice or whatever. So it's,
Can you explain where the money's coming from, please?
the money, I'm recommending, or I'm suggesting that the money be taken from ARPA funds. We're looking at like $1,500, $1,516, I believe, for the purchase.
And this was recommended from the finance committee to go forward with this
I
acquisition.
would make a motion to approve $1,516 to purchase 8 voting booths to take it out of the ARPA funds.
Eric,
I'll second it.
any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Kathy Brown,
Yes.
John Blaha.
Yep.
James Brewster.
Aye.
Wendy Shelton. Janita Zimmerman.
Aye.
Robin Nelson.
Aye.
Richard Taylor.
Aye.
Eric Wozniacki.
8F, consider an act on resolution 2013 to 2022 reaffirming the city of Kewaunee support of fair housing. Do you recall what that was to satisfy one of the CDBG grants we had earlier, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that is a standard letter reaffirming prior CDBG grant that we had with the state of Wisconsin. Wendy,
So do we know which CDBG?
was that Marquette?
Because we had an ordinance after Marquette. The fair housing, the city created an ordinance, and I wish I'd brought my notebook because I have it in there. But I don't know why we need to have it. I'm not understanding why we need to have another one.
This is a resolution.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not an ordinance, it's a resolution, and you're just reaffirming
So
your
is that
commitment.
a resolution that we are required to renew every year for the duration of that CBDG grant?
I don't know that was not explained to me in that fashion, so it was just saying that in order for us to continue with that grant, you know, this is required.
Okay, so now that grant has closed out,
No, that,
the Marquette one?
yes, Marquette. F.
I think we closed that out. Am I wrong about that?
Who are you consulting with, Joanne?
Her name is Renee, I think, from
I don't see
Cedar
that
Court.
email. Jim, are you familiar with that?
I'm not, but that, if you're talking with Renee, that would be something tied to Fisherman's Point, I would think.
Okay.
That's the only thing she's involved with, unless you reached out to her in general.
I did, and she reached out to me
So
with
then
this, so.
We can't do anything
Okay,
with
sorry.
Fisherman's Point for 5 years, so why are we doing this now?
But again, if I'm correct in saying this, from what Lynn has told us, is that if you allow low to moderate income housing,
You can within
you
5 years.
can within 5 years.
That's what this
So
is
that's
about.
what this is about.
Correct.
So
Yes, Wendy.
to clarify, this is what we think is for the Fisherman's Point CDBG. On the off chance that we want to put low to moderate income housing.
Well, and it's encompassing more than Fisherman's Point. We like to just refer to Fisherman's Point, but it's those other 2 parcels that were part of that CDBG as well.
Is that in there? Is that what it says? Does it actually say that's what it's for?
No.
I don't remember seeing that in there. It's not very clear what it's for, what it pertains to.
You have the, you have a copy of it?
It's in the packet.
It was just a resolution.
So.
Who wrote the resolution, by the way?
Tell us
Cedar Fort.
we get more information.
Is this the same resolution from last year or?
We didn't have it last year.
2 years ago, I think. Might be even longer than that.
I've never seen this resolution. And if we passed one, what would be an expiration date on a resolution? You don't put one on there. So
I think,
why are we doing this?
Jim, I would just say, I've seen these sort of things before with block grants. They basically want to know that the city is going to support firms that are interested in supporting low-income housing.
Whose interest?
Cities. So the block grant people are looking to understand or to know that you guys are supporting low-income housing if in fact.
Within 5 years.
I think this is.
Which is a stipulation of the grant, is if we do anything with it for 5 years, that's what we're going to do. But if we don't have any intention of doing that, why would we do this?
It reads to me like it's the kind of thing that housing and urban development typically attaches to their grants, that they simply want to know that the city's not gonna take CDBG grant money and then do something other than at least support the concept of affordable housing or the provision of that.
That's already the condition of the grant and receiving.
Are we aware of a timeline requirement for this to be passed? If this could be tabled until next month, if we have further clarification?
I can get you clarification from that. I was not aware of.
I would like to make a motion that we table this.
I would respect that you don't table. Because then you have to take a motion, you have to make a motion to take it off the table. So just postpone it.
Well, there was a motion made. If there's no second, it'll die. Is there a second to table? Is there a second to table? Motion died. So you're recommending,
Just postpone it. You'd either postpone it to a specific.
well, it just
meeting.
dies. There's no motion. If there's no motion to do anything, it dies at this point. There's no.
Just got a
table.
question. Is there a timeline, Joanne?
We don't know. We
In
don't,
us,
we don't know.
we don't know.
We
if
need to
there's-
find out more information.
In drafting the
Yes.
resolution, we don't know if there's timeline.
No.
Okay.
So
So if you postpone, if you postpone it to a specific date, or you just postpone it indefinitely. Then that way it can come back at any time.
well, if there's no action, it'd be the same thing, right? No
No,
one's taking action. Or you want me to make a statement?
Just make a statement.
I make a statement. This will come back next month with further clarification
Thank
and
you.
resolution form to take action.
Let's do it indefinitely till we get more clarification in case they need more.
All right.
And
we'll
it could
move on.
come as soon as next month.
Item 8G, consider and act on recommendation for resolution 2014 to 2022, authorizing execution of the Department of Natural Resources Principal for Given Financial Assistance Agreement. Well, if it's anything like the last one. Michelle,
I make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing execution of the Department of Natural Resources Principal for Giving us financial assistance.
I'll second that.
second by Nelson. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 8H, financial reports, month ending June 2022. Just there for reference, does anyone have any questions or concerns on the financial reports for June? Item 9, announcements. Does anyone have any announcements? No announcements? All right,
I would just say, I did not, I was unable to go to the event this weekend, but I heard it was very well perceived. So for Chad Guns, and there was a thank you for everybody that attended and gave, and they are just astounded at the support that they received. So
It was very well organized. It was very controlled. Brian was on it all night long. He did a good job. And I didn't see any issues, so it's a good thing.
One thing is that I made a rough draft of a charter for the Public Property Committee. I forwarded that rough draft to the committee members, the mayor, city administrator. I welcome your feedback and any input in order to draft a charter that will guide us to do what the city needs done. And with that, I'll request that the committee be provided with a listing of the assets of the city that we are entrusted with providing guidance for. So all the titled assets, whether it's real estate, vehicles, etc. Even items that would have, say, certificate of manufacturer's origin, things like trailers, whatever. But if it's public property, then it would be under the purview. And of course, per the draft, the authority of the committee is quite limited.
Okay.
The powers with the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Does anyone else have any other announcements? Nate?
This is a little informational thing. I'm gonna bring it up later once I have more of the details hammered out. I'm working with NLRP on an ash tree replacement program. It's just in the parkland. So currently there's 33 to 36 trees I'm gonna be targeting to get removed and replaced with an approved species off our list that was in our forestry management plan. Just wanted to kind of let that out there for everybody, just knowing that it's gonna be something. I'm also working on closing out the DNR forestry grant with a lot of monies. I was gonna target the cherry trees that are half dead and fungally infested along Ellis Street, and have them updated with approved species off that list also. So as this progresses and gets closer to making a decision, I'll put it through the proper committees and for that ash tree replacement grant, our share of it would be the removal of stump grant. So it essentially ends up being like a relatively free tree.
Excellent.
So as a progressive, more I'll keep you informed, but it's looking like everything's moving in the right direction.
Thanks for that, Nate. Any other announcements? Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investigating of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. 302 Hathaway Drive. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Kathy Brown.
Aye.
John Blaha.
Yep.
James Brewster.
Aye.
Wendy Shelton. Janita Zimmerman. Robin Nelson.
hi.
Richard Taylor.
Aye.
Eric Woznicki.
Motion carried.
We have a 5-minute
Take 5 break and we'll come back for closed.
So generally, doesn't the city?
Well, so we're closest to Ellis on the lawn.
Those trees
Yep.
generally, so is
That
he
blacktop
saying-
between him and Palmer this building.
How did anybody see the grant?
All country.
That's what.
On a fence off
Because
buildings
I've
and
known
all
to
that
be
blacktop there
charged
between
for
them.
that.
So the access they would have is
Yeah.
between
You know, I
these
don't know
buildings that narrow or down the street. And it's kind of a bad deal.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering like Second
Or
Street
I
and
stopped the fence. permit.
First Street by John and Kathy, thank you.
Trying to make sure that that is not obstructed by anything that we can get emergency service vehicles through there.
What was like private entities?
I have nothing to say about that.
they place it with something else and then they're not.
So it's not like, I'm surprised it's not like big.
It's a 70 to 100-year-old handshake, right? You know how that
I
works.
always wonder why.
If they were to go to court and push, they would likely win.
You know,
And this guy's being.
trees are nice, but if you're gonna always
Right, right.
uproot it and it comes out and messes up sidewalks.
He just bought it and he's being, I don't know. I mean, you know, when you've got neighbors
You know, that.
There is
and attitudes.
nothing
Do
in
that
the
on
law
Ellis
that
Street.
states
I don't
that
know.
there
Put in trees
well, I mean, that would be the
don't-
first thing, right? You look at your deed and see if there is any